So Alessandro, can you just start by telling us a little bit about the 2023 vintage and what sort of year you've had here in Tuscany?
I will say that was quite challenging vintage because of the pressure of mildew that we had in May and June. Since the beginning, we saw that it started out very good. We had a cold winter with snow, actually, which is very, very good, to refill all the water reserve underground. But then, of course, during the spring, the water was quite a lot, especially in May and during the flowering. And so we were, of course, quite worried about it. But because, of course, we are organically farmed in Tenuta Luce, and so when you have this kind of pressure of mildew, is you're of course you're worried about the fruits that are not gonna be a cluster. They're not gonna turn to be a normal cluster. But in fact, this morning we were in Tenuta Luce, of course, but we were at the Madonnino plot, and you saw that we have a beautiful bunches of grapes, and these kind of grapes for Madonnino plots are going into our Brunello Luce. So we'll say that thanks God we had a big yields we had during overall, but with this kind of pressure we just reduce it about 5%. We had this reduction of yield.
You said that this was a difficult vintage.
Mm.
How does it compare to 2022, which from the outside looked
Oh yeah,
like a different...
2022 was more, let's say, on the dry side. We are comparing two vintages that are completely different. 2022 was easier in terms of farming because, of course, we didn't have this kind of pressure of mildew during May, June, but was drier. So, you have more concentration on the fruits. Sometimes the vines stress a little bit too much. So I would say that in 2022 we did slower maceration for our grapes, while in this year, we are in the middle of harvest, so we are not at the end of it. But what we saw that, of course, we really were busy during the spring times to protect the vines against the mildew. But the quality of the fruits is there, so for sure it's gonna be less concentrated than 2022, and so that's why we can keep it longer for maceration. So will be maybe even with more depth the wine at the end.
From what you can see so far, is there a vintage that you would think, oh, this 23 might be like X vintage, the year?
Looks like a 2014 or 18, which are both French vintages, but compared to the 2014, we are not having the rains during the harvest, so which is good, is even better, because they are annoying during the harvest. They are diluting your fruits, and so they're complicating the things. So while right now, as you can see, there is this little breeze that is blowing, and so we're just now waiting for the best ripening of the fruits.
Okay, and you just mentioned the French harvest. Obviously, you've got a lot of experience on the right bank of Bordeaux. Can you talk about Merlot here, Merlot there? What are the things that you see echoing each other, and what are the differences?
Of course, there are two different regions. The weather is completely different. Here is drier, and the weather is warmer. Even though lately, even in Bordeaux, you have warmer summers, like 2018 in Bordeaux or 2020. Where they really had a lot of sun. I would say that in here, the Merlot, of course, as in Bordeaux, we planted our best Merlot in clay. So because the Merlot needs really to have its roots in clay that keep the moisture, in the soil, and so keep the freshness into the wine, and so it doesn't really block the vines when you have a lot of heat. I would say that maybe in here the wines are more opulent, the Merlot. Of course, the ripening is faster than Bordeaux, but that's why if we use mainly the Merlot for our flagship wine, which is Luce, and the Luce is made with Merlot and Sangiovese, and so bringing Sangiovese in Merlot, especially with the hot conditions, like for example 2017, really helps to bring the balance to the wine. So we have this card that is very important to us, the Sangiovese, that really we can use it to create the balance in our wines.
In terms of the climate changing, what are the things that really stand out to you as flags waving about things that could get bad in the future or potentially good in the future?
Bad in the future, I will say the dry periods that are getting longer and longer. So the lack of water is this is an issue. So what we do, we have a lake. So we are trying to develop different lines, for irrigation, different plots, because today Luce is 92 hectares, so quite big estate in Montalcino, but we have a good reservoir of water. So we are trying to reach every part, even the forest that we have at the state, but today we are just covering the 10%. So using already the water for irrigation is a very, very good point in terms of, to control this long period of drying that we are facing, And also another aspect is to pay attention when you're going to pick the grapes, because you cannot pick too late. You need to really to be very precise when you are going to pick the grapes, because it's there that you are keeping the freshness of the fruits. So that's why in Tenuta Luce we know that, and we are paying even more attention that since 2016 we have this beautiful winery. The vats are with the small sizes, so you can even be even more precise, when you're picking the grapes.
So you're getting right into the detail.
Exactly.
And we'll use Bordeaux as an example, but a lot of regions are experimenting with new varieties as a counter to climate change. What are the varieties that could be new, that would be acceptable for you to consider?
I mean, we are,
because you're not doing it at the moment.
No, but we are using Cabernet Sauvignon, but you have just 3 hectares, and this is another, let's say, the last born in the family, in terms of wine. And we saw that the Cabernet Sauvignon, but also the Sangiovese itself, is responding very well to this kind of weather, because it's more plastic variety, so it means that you can adapt itself when there is a lot of hot weather and dry conditions. I don't know, I will say, why not Cabernet Franc, or another local variety in Italy is more in the center of Italy, is Montepulciano. Why not? So Montepulciano maybe can work well. Or why not Petit Verdot? Petit Verdot, because Petit Verdot is a very interesting variety, because in Bordeaux they use it just, like salt, in their blends. But why not in here to use it just in the same, like 5-10%, for giving more complex, to complex even more the wines. Why not? Because it's a late variety that can bring some kind of freshness, for sure, a lot of color. So why not? So in Bordeaux, some part of Bordeaux is very quite tricky to grow this kind of variety, because it never ripen, they said. While in here that we have a more Mediterranean climate, it will be easier maybe to grow this kind of variety.
Okay, well, I look forward to tasting future vintages. Thank you very much.